Hey Alice, welcome back. You have come at an excellent time. We have the one and only Conor Spellane here.
What up,
Um,
Alice?
Been a long time since you and I have done like just this.
Yeah,
Like you've been on Chaos Council
yeah.
and you're on the 200th episode.
I was causing chaos.
Yeah, but it's been like probably like 2 or 3 years
At least,
since
man.
you just came on as yourself to do this.
Long overdue.
Yeah,
I've been, as you know, probably irresponsibly busy in those 2 or 3 years.
yeah. You've played with a lot of acts, like touring, doing a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
Very, very busy.
yeah. Since then, too, uh, I'm probably still in roughly the same amount of bands, although those have kind of changed a little bit here and
Yeah.
there. Um, so it's been a long, productive couple of years. Also, I need an adult. I'm tired.
Yeah, I hear you. Speaking of things you've been doing, things you got going on, March 8th, you're playing with Echo Pilot
Yep.
and Leilani Kilgore. That's
Yes.
what you're playing with Winton Existing.
Yes. I'll be on bass.
And that is March 8th at
The East Side
East Side
Bowl.
Bowl.
Yep.
Then next, you've got this really big show, Karma Vulture,
Which
with
is the band I front for
yeah,
your information, Alex.
yeah.
Alice.
You're in Winton Existing, Karma Vulture. What else? What other projects you in?
Hooked Like Helen,
That's right.
right? I do guitar in that one, which is one of my only guitar bands at this point, which is both fun and sad, And then I
Yeah,
also do guitar for Heather Thomas in her solo music. She also is probably more than occasionally on drums for Hooked Like Helen. And then I also play with Ben Forg. Ben Forg and the Knives. Ben Fork and the Knives.
Ben Ford.
Ben Ford and the D Gentleman, or whatever we end up going with. Uh,
Yeah, y'all played a really awesome show at the basement.
yeah, that was
Uh,
a fun one.
yeah, that was great.
That was a fun one. We, that was an odd show for the basement because I feel like they're usually like super on top of it.
Mm.
So I love playing there. It's my favorite venue in town. Like that one was maybe a little loosey goosey.
Yeah, not to talk shit, but you and I were like standing outside for like 45 minutes in between bands. Like, what's happening right now?
What is happening in there? I
And that
think,
was New Faces night. There's
yeah,
like 1,000 bands playing.
and I think every band except for Ben, um, took longer to set up than they did actually playing. So that was kind of
Mm.
funny.
Yeah. I guess it's a lot of like y'all are by no means amateurs, and this might be people who like haven't played a lot.
It was half and half. I actually, man, like all the acts were like pretty good actually. And a theme that I noticed that was kind of awesome if you consider how music's gone for the last 10 years was like, dude, every band had like 4 to 7 people in it,
Mm.
which I feel like, at least in my experience, man, like bands in the last 30 years certainly have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Example being like the White Stripes are like 2 fucking
Yeah.
people, you know?
One of my favorite, probably my favorite band is like a 7 piece band and they don't tour. Like they're like they don't really even play shows. It's like studio band.
What are they called?
Margot and the Nuclear So and So's.
I love the Nuclear So and So's.
Yeah, I'll show you after this. It's very it's like that like depressing folky singer-songwriter kind of thing.
Vicky loves that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, they're probably my favorite. Um, it's one of those things. They have this massive catalog of music, and I like all of it. So
Yeah.
it's like they don't seem like they can do any wrong.
Well, man, like again, a theme in music I've kind of noticed recently is like we're starting to get to the point where like folks that grew up, for the most part, with access to all the music really ever created are now starting to be adults that are making really cool music.
Mm,
So like, I would imagine if they have a massive catalog, like it's not all the same, right?
no, and a lot of it's really rough, and a lot of it is like this is the same song but a different version of it. Like,
Sure.
yeah,
Well, I guess to my point, like the cool part I think about the people making music right now, I might even said this in the last podcast. My little joke is like the bad part about music is there's no money, and the good part of music is there's no money. And
mm,
part of that good part is like there's no douchebag in a suit being like, well, if you make me, a fucking Imagine Dragons record, I'll sign you to Sony. There's
Yeah.
nobody to say that anymore because it's like, oh, what are you gonna pay me to do that? No, you're not. So I think if I'm doing it for free, it'll really be all the same if I just do whatever I want. And
Hmm.
so like you're getting a lot of bands who like aren't just one thing. They're not just like they didn't have one hit that sounded like this and then made three records trying to capitalize on that sound exactly like the one hit they had, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah. It is cool. It's like, I like the way you put that. There's no money in it, which sucks, but there's no money in it, which is awesome.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
this guy, it's like I've been losing money in music my entire life at this point, and I'll happily keep doing that. I guess my
Yeah.
point there is like I'd just like to make cool art.
Hmm.
Like hopefully in the pursuit of that, somewhere along the way, I'll have done it for long enough that I'll fall backwards into an opportunity that will make me some money. But like either way, as long as I get to keep making records, like I'll be satisfied with that.
Yeah. Well, you're a very humble dude, but like you're a real artist.
Thank you.
Like a lot of people don't have that mentality about it. Like
Well, they're
you,
gonna be disappointed.
yeah, yeah. Yes, they are.
Like that's kind of it. It's
If
like
you're not doing this because you want to do it, that if you're trying to make money, like go do anything else.
there's so many easier ways to make money.
Yeah.
Like almost every other way to make money is easier.
Hmm.
Fuck, you don't even have to get a job. You can sell your organs that you don't need.
I remember Phil and Will were on, this was years ago, um, around the time, like the time you first came on.
Yeah.
Um, and Phil was like asking Will something about like how do you get into like making music? It was like not a great question. And Will, and Will was like, if you cannot do it, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Like only do this if you have to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that like that's the best advice you give. Is like
Absolutely.
if there's a chance for you not to do this, then don't.
Well, like, I work at a restaurant, Alice, for your benefit there. And like, it just the type of restaurant it is. It's in an upscale neighborhood. A lot of our business is upscale business. And so you get a lot of like older folks coming in with their grandkids. And every once in a while you'll be like, they'll ask you like, oh, are you a musician? Because like, duh. And I'll be like, yeah. And like, oh, well, my grandchild here is also a musician. Do you have any advice? And I'm like, well, kind of. I'll tell you this. Like, if you, for starters, like, be obsessed.
Mm,
Just be obsessed with it. If you're not obsessed, like, do something easier.
yep.
For two, like, hey, think about it this way. If you are obsessed and you work really hard and you, you know, make a lot of sacrifices and you don't go out and party when all your friends are doing that, which I did plenty of. Don't misunderstand me. But if you really focus on this for a long period of time and you work your butt off and you get into music school and you keep practicing 8 hours every single day and try and do all the right things and accrue as much knowledge and contacts as you can, one day you too could
Mm.
be a waiter at this restaurant, just like me.
Damn. Damn.
But I mean, I'm trying to drive home the point of like, yo, usually at this point, the table and I have interacted for a while. A lot of times these people are reasonably wealthy. So like are often, not always, wealth does not equate to intelligence. A lot of times it doesn't either. You need a specific kind of point being, like these people have understood that like, hey, I'm not a dipshit.
Mm,
Like I didn't write down their order. I'll start writing things down when there's 8 or 9 people. Beyond that, like they understand, like, okay, this guy's at least not a moron,
mm,
And it's like, yo, I'm choosing to be here at working at this restaurant right
yep.
now because I want to do this other thing.
Yep.
If that sounds terrible to you, like, oh my God, this guy's 35 and he's a waiter, it's like, well, then you don't get it. You're not doing this, like,
Yeah,
yeah, here you have to be in it for the actual art part of it. Like that's got to be the rewarding part.
for sure. I think if you end up being successful, whatever the fuck that means,
Yeah, sure.
but you end up being successful doing that, that's awesome, but that cannot be the intention.
Mhm.
That's got to be like a happy side effect, right?
Well, like, man, Josh Loney said, I forget the context. It was after work at the restaurant. Because like some of the bandsmen have done some pretty cool stuff. Worked with some pretty well thought of people. Met some of my heroes,
Yeah, y'all done
in
some big
in
stuff.
a social setting, even like and Loney was like, when I was like, well, I'm still last time I checked, it's 11 p.m. I'd like to be home and done for the night, and I'm still at this restaurant. Josh goes, well, yeah, man, but you're like a lot more successful than most other musicians. And I
Mm,
was like,
yeah,
you might actually be right about that, which
that's
is
true.
pretty sad.
There's goddamn that wind outside
Dude, it
is
was blowing my
insane.
car around the way over here.
That's wild. I apologize if that's picking up on the audio, but I can't control that. So
What? You can't?
no,
All right,
I'm
I'm
not.
out
I'm
of
not
here.
the juice.
We'll just
uh,
call Vicky. Be like, babe,
can you stop the
can you
wind?
stop this wind, please, babe?
um,
She's a Russian Jew. That doesn't, she,
yeah, that doesn't count. That's
no.
different. That's she's one of the good ones.
Oh God. I've only really met the good ones. I don't know, man. I grew up playing music with Jewish folks. Like I know quite a few Jewish folks, and
Yeah, who
like
are these imaginary Jews that control everything? Because all the Jews I know are
are
broke
are
and
yeah.
autistic.
Well, either that or if they're not autistic, they're like absolutely brilliant, which
Yeah,
means you're probably
yeah,
okay.
they're
You
yeah,
know,
same thing.
my dude was funny. My dad's like, oh, I think I might be autistic. I'm like, Dad, you were in sales your whole life, dude.
Yeah,
Like your whole job was interacting with people. What are you talking about?
I had this. I've been having a lot of stand-up comics on. I've been
Oh
going to a
hell
lot
yeah,
of
dude.
open mics and just kind of meeting
Yeah.
that scene. And this one dude, he was so funny, but he was like, he started in on something. He's like, and you're on the spectrum somewhere, right? I was like, damn, that's so funny.
My
Just
mom
be
says
like,
mine.
you're retarded, aren't you? I don't want to assume, but you're a fucking retard, right?
Oh Jesus
I've never
Christ,
been
man.
diagnosed with autism, but I also work in sales. It's like this.
Yeah.
That's why it's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all on the spectrum.
Yeah.
That's why it's a
If you
spectrum.
widen it enough, you know.
Yeah.
This is how my little joke is like, I had ADD before it was cool.
What was I saying before the wind? I can't remember.
Talking about Loney, like you're more successful than many other
Oh,
musicians. And
I
I'm like, that's
remember.
a terrifying realization.
Yeah, thank you. I remember now. It's like in all things, but entertainment also. There's like a shrinking middle class where it's like,
Yeah, dude, that's real.
yeah, it's like there's like 95% of people are just barely scraping by, and then you have like super wealthy people playing stadiums and shit. And
Yeah.
there is no middle path. It's
There
like,
used to be.
yeah, there for sure, for sure. Um, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s,
90s even too,
90s.
yeah.
Yeah. And now things are different. Like there's not really a lot of money in it unless it's all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like because the physical medium surrounding music has shrunk into like a really niche boutique kind of market. Like, dude, when people are buying CDs from you, they're just trying to give your band some, like, they're not gonna fucking listen to that CD.
Yeah.
At least look, I'm speaking for myself. Like, I'm not. If I'm buying like a CD from a band, which I don't really do, I'd rather buy the shirt because I'll wear the shirt.
Hmm.
But if I'm buying like something from a band, like it's just because I like your band. It's just I'm like, oh man, these
Right.
poor fucks.
It's not like you're gonna use a CD when you have an MP3 player or like your phone or
Yeah, man,
something.
it's like
Yeah,
all music ever created is just like sitting in my pocket.
for sure. I have some physical media, but it's all wrapped up still. Like I've got Heather Thomas's,
Yeah,
but that's still in the. I don't have a record player,
no,
and I collect cassettes too. Like I got both of y'all's cassettes.
because like it's a piece of art,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Like I like that kind of physical media, but like a CD is like the last thing I'm gonna buy.
Yeah,
One of my favorite merch ideas I've seen is lighters.
yeah,
Like lighter with like a bottle cap opener. I think practical merch is a great idea.
yeah,
Like
because
things people can use.
you want people using it.
Yeah.
A funny example, the new bass player from Jazz and Ray. Uh, Vicky realized while she was at their show, I was of course working as I fucking always am every time something cool's going on. Um, she noticed that the bass player for the band was wearing a shirt that was mine at one point, and she was explaining how it had come into his possession. But like you're saying, practical stuff, like you never know where that's going to
Yeah,
end up. You know,
yeah,
like it could, like I was saying about meeting some of my heroes in social settings, like they smoke cigarettes, perfect time to give them a karma vulture later. Like there you
mm-hmm,
go. Now,
yep,
now whoever has some merch from my band that they'll probably use, you know,
yep.
or it'll end up in one of their friends. You know, it's like,
My stickers have QR codes on them. So every time I go anywhere, I'll put a sticker
yeah,
somewhere. And that's just like having eyes all over the place.
yeah,
It's like where you can just scan that. You're standing in line for something,
and which is a great idea,
Yeah.
which karma definitely should do.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna have stickers, I think it's a good idea. Um, oh, I keep getting distracted. You have shows coming up. I want to get this.
Oh yeah,
I
right.
don't want to forget about this again. So, yeah, went in existing at East Room.
On the 8th,
I'm sorry,
East Side Bowl.
East Side Bowl.
Went to existing East Side Bowl Saturday the 8th. We're playing first,
Hell yeah,
kicking off the night. It's our second show. We're not last in a row, just kind of fun.
that's interesting.
I used to love playing first because that way I wouldn't be shit faced by the time.
Oh, that's right. Y'all played with the Iguana Head for their.
Yeah,
Was it a single release?
yeah. That
That's
was
what's
their
up.
at their EP release, their record
Oh, hell
release.
yeah.
It was, dude. It was mobbed.
Really?
It was nuts to butts.
I bet.
It was
That's a
awesome.
great show. I
Um,
missed that.
the Red and the Red, I was pleasantly surprised by
Hmm.
them. They were fun. I
Okay.
like them. Iguana Head's new music is awesome. I was like, I really, really enjoyed that stuff, you guys. Thank you for having us on. That was rad.
And then March 14th, there's the Karma Vulture show with Omen Bringer
And Dead Feathers.
and Dead Feathers at Exit In.
Yep.
Then you've got one the 21st with Winton Existing at Indie Luna.
Yes.
And then April 5th, Winton Existing is playing Bunny Roo,
Yep.
which is the Rabbit Hole Festival we're doing. That I'm like have very little involvement in, and that's exactly the way I want it.
Yeah.
Last year when we did this, I'm like, y'all book shows y'all do this all the time.
All the time.
I hate this. I don't ever want to do this again. And so I've got like really great people working on it. And I'm just like, the smartest thing I could do is remove myself from things I don't know anything about and let
Yeah.
other people do it.
Yes. I mean, that's a tactic I employ all the time. I do my best to surround myself with people that are like good at the things that I'm not good at, or
Hmm.
like just can't stand,
Yeah.
you know? For instance, like all the Karma Vulture videos, I just showed up. I
Yeah.
have literally nothing to do with any of those. Uh, and lucky for, I mean, geez, lucky for me, I have folks like, first off, Will, who's like, he's into the video
Yeah.
aspect of it. Like he digs the concept building and all that stuff. Whereas that makes me want to jump off a building. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
And then we got Loney, who like is amazing behind the camera. We've had two other folks do videos for us too, and embarrassingly, I can't remember who those folks are, and those videos are great too. Um, Check out Karma Vulture by Karma Vulture off of Karma Vulture,
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
and then Long Beach Vacation. Both are sick videos that were not made by Josh, but are great.
I've seen some of the videos from before y'all moved here. Really sick.
Yeah,
Have like fucking crazy views too.
yeah.
Like whatever promo y'all did for that was really good. It worked out well.
Oh yeah, dude. The Gift of Nothing. It
Yeah, that's
has
the one
like
I'm thinking of. Yeah.
65,000 views.
Yeah.
95% of which came in the first like week that it was live. Yeah,
Damn. That's wild.
like 55,000 of those came in the week that it was first week that it was live. And that was just like most things that do well on social media. It was right place, right time, dude. That was like a couple weeks after Google launched Google Ads.
Mm.
So they just gave us like $200 of free
Wow.
YouTube ads. And that translated to like 60,000 views on that video. And the coolest part about that was like, um, Will's wife is in marketing. Like she started the company she works for. She started their e-commerce like wing of that company, which is like the biggest part of it.
Wow.
Yeah. She used to work on one of those. Doesn't matter. Point being, she watched our like engagement and was like, on average, people are watching like 3 minutes of this video.
Oh shit, that's really good.
She's like, I would kill for that kind of engagement on anything that we do.
That's insane in a time of like low attention span.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, um, yeah, that was fucking absolutely wild. Like people were actually clicking it and then watching it, the
Yeah.
whole thing.
It is wild. Like, uh, so I really, I'm mad that I'm even bringing this up right now, but, I really don't like Elon Musk. Whereas like I've known people that have hated him forever,
Yeah,
but like I'm recently on the I don't fucking like this guy. And part of my issue, maybe the biggest part of my issue with him is he has found a way to always be in the news cycle.
yeah,
Like good or bad, he has found a way to like implant himself in the zeitgeist to where everywhere you look,
he's there.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
there.
Well, man, like, look, I'm conflicted on that guy. I'll give you a personal, for instance. Like, he was knowingly manipulating some of the cryptocurrencies,
Mm,
um, and that lost me like 10 G's.
mm.
Fuck that guy,
Like pump
man.
and dump stuff.
Yeah, I forget at this point. I forget exactly how he was doing it, but it was pretty clear and obvious. But there's just no, and at the time, especially, there was no regulations
It's
around
not,
that.
yeah. I think it's largely still like that,
I think it is
where
too.
you can kind of just be shitty and there's no legal ramifications for
Yeah.
it.
So I mean, that lost me like 10 G's, man. I was bummed about that. I still haven't recovered that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a lot of money.
but then like, you know, I think anyway, cut it, the guy's brilliant, whether you like him or not.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yeah, he's
like,
really smart. I think he's incredibly unlikable just based on what he's been doing recently. Like, I think the USAID stuff's really cool. Like, Doge is like, that's awesome. He's just really fucking obnoxious, like, as a person.
yeah,
I'm like, anytime, like, he just has been on a warpath to destroy his reputation over the last like several months. I'm like,
yeah,
holy shit, this is like an impressive level of like bad press that you're getting. But he's still in the press. Like he's still like
he's
he's
still
making
off.
money off people, off me talking shit about him,
Yes,
off anyone talking shit about him.
yeah. I mean, that's that man. That look, that's almost the point. Like, you have to think about it this way, right? Like, Vic brought up a post. I forget, I forget who it was or even what it was about, but she was like, had a problem with the grammar, and I'm like, well, you have to think about it in terms of like, that's actually a tactic, excuse me, like leave bad grammar in a post so that people interact with it and call
Mm,
you an idiot, because like any interaction, I mean, these people are just like the biggest leech you've ever seen feeding on your attention. So like, it doesn't matter
yeah,
how they're getting your attention so long as they're getting it at all, and then they can advertise to you. So it's like, yeah, he's been destroying his reputation, but everybody's talking about him, and like
yep.
that's the currency of modernity.
The
Is
engagement is where all the power is.
yeah,
Not people liking you, but people
no,
interacting with you.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like especially if it's like soft negativity, now you're thinking about that thing whether you want to or not, and it hasn't caused such a visceral reaction that like you can't you want to turn it off.
Yeah.
You're just like, it's just like a train wreck that you can't look away from, you know.
The ambiguity too, like the whole like Nazi salute thing
Ugh.
is like people are like, he's a Nazi. That was a Nazi salute, which I think is kind of like a smooth brain take on it. Like you're not, I don't think he's a Nazi. I don't think he's like trying to say I hate the Jews. I think also saying, oh, he's autistic. He didn't mean to. is like also kind of a smooth brain take, where it's like, no, he clearly did a Nazi salute, but the point of that is not to go, I'm a Nazi. The point of that is to get a discussion going and
Yeah.
get a conversation because it's ambiguous. So now there's like this big question about it.
And like, man, I guess I should finally get around to watching that because like I've heard a bunch of people talk about that
Mm.
and I've not seen it. Um,
To me, it's pretty obvious that that's what it is. I've heard people say, no, it's not that obvious. Like, it's like, no, he's just, his heart goes out to you. It's like a normal thing. And I'm like, you don't accidentally do a Nazi salute. I've never accidentally just Heil Hitler. Like,
no,
that's crazy. But also, it's like not that he's on a war path to eradicate the Jews or something. He's just fucking with us. It's just attention.
well, something that certainly our government would love swept under the rug is like, man, we gave a lot of the top Nazis like really important
Yeah,
jobs.
Operation Paperclip. Yeah.
You know, like that's just true. Like you can't really get around that. And like, look, man, I understand if you're a superpower in the world, like you need to be able to uphold that to some extent and by any means necessary. You can argue the morality of it, but like if we're talking about some of the smartest people on the planet, like even if you find them morally reprehensible, which I think by all accounts, a lot of the people involved in Operation Paperclip, like they probably did find them morally
Mm.
reprehensible. It's like you can't let, let's say, in the modern scope, you can't let China have these fucking dudes.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do that. And so it's like somebody is going to take advantage of this person's point of view.
Oh, sure. Like,
Your only option might be like, hey, you know, we did beat him for sure. So you don't have to join them, but if you can glom on to some of their knowledge that was very clear on technology, that is very clearly beating yours in a lot of regards, like, what do you do?
I think, yeah, if we could, like, if we're not going to kill them, we want them over our opponents. So maybe we can just, like, keep them in chains.
Yeah, which hopefully is what happened. I don't know enough
Yeah.
about it,
I
you
don't
know?
think it was like, probably some of them ended up very wealthy, but I think some of them it's kind of like, well, you can do this or you can die.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which, like, again, you know, is that something me in my position? Like, if a Nazi was like, I have guaranteed keys to the Ferrari for you to be a music star, like, but you have to hide me, I'd be like, oh, fuck you, man.
Mm.
Fuck
Yeah.
you. Go die, dude. You know, but like in terms of protecting 330 other million people, like, I don't know, that's a tough
Yeah.
position to be in.
There's, I don't know. There's like the argument that America needs to be interventionalist in other countries because Russia and China are going to do that,
Yeah.
right? It's like, um, I used to, something I've realized about myself is I'm so anti our government that sometimes I'll fall for like Russian propaganda
Sure.
because I'm so opposed to what America has been.
Yeah.
So it's like it's easy to like other things to influence me. Like my position on the Ukraine stuff's changed where um it's like oh, I had a Nana K on, you know her?
Mm.
Um she's from Georgia, the country,
Oh, right.
not the state.
Oh,
Um
interesting.
and she oh from Georgia.
She's 3 hours from here. Whoa.
And
I ain't never met someone from Georgia before.
her perspective was really useful because she was telling me that like Russia invaded Georgia in like 2008.
Yeah.
They invaded Ukraine in like 2014. Like they are, he is trying to establish the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Like, because the Russian propaganda side of it is this happened because NATO, the UN was trying to get Ukraine to sign to NATO. And Biden, and I mean, this is also true. Biden like really put a lot of pressure on Ukraine. Like, we'll protect you, but you have to like join NATO. And then Russia's like, no, you're not going to like have a military base like on our back door. That's
Yeah.
like if Russia had a military installation in Canada. It's like, I no, that's
Yeah.
not. So I mean that side that's true, but the other side is, oh no, the Soviet Union, he will expand as far as he can get.
Yeah.
So there's this argument that's like China is going to try and take Taiwan. Russia is going to try and expand. The US kind of has to do this also, or they forfeit that, like, they give up this fight for globalism, which is going on.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't think that's a good argument, but it's the best argument I've heard for American intervention in other countries. I think we shouldn't try and compete with China because you're trying to compete with slave labor. Like,
Yeah.
should we try and outproduce China? It's like, no, because then you're creating slaves in order to compete with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is not an easy thing though. It's very,
Man,
very complicated.
it's all complicated. And like, again, from a US government's complicated too, because, it goes into like, my dad's a vet, right? And like, conversations I have with him sometimes, he's a fucking brilliant guy. And he oftentimes doesn't like the argument that like our government's bad. He's like, yes, but it's always like, yes, but, and a lot of times, like, man, the guy's a deep thinker. He's as intelligent as anybody will ever meet, and he can really make an eloquent point about what he's talking about. The problem there lies in like a lot of the things that were successful for his generation of people. For instance, the baby boomers had had a larger transfer of wealth into what would be classically serf hands than any other generation in human history, supposedly. Right? I didn't do this study. Uh, and so, like, it was like the true realization of the dismantling of the caste system,
Hmm.
you know? And so to say that, like, hey, these same principles are now being used to install a new caste system, that's difficult to try and tell someone who started out, like my pop, started out in a row home in what is now like one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Philadelphia, like the
Yeah.
guy started life as a serf and made a very good life for himself, and so it's hard to try and explain, like, hey man, like, I get that it worked for you, but it's just not working this way
It's not,
anymore,
yeah.
you know?
They it's not the same thing. Like it's like you're saying, like they flipped the switch
Yeah,
where it's like that did work and it would work if we continued to do that.
yeah,
But now they're using it, they're just not doing that. They're installing a new caste system, like you said.
yeah, because
It's
it's great, man. It's great because
yeah.
the same people who are have the same people have unlimited resources to learn how to take advantage of the laws that are in place are then making more laws to exponentially increase their wealth
Mm,
because they then can hire the best lobbyists in the world and in our country and so on and so forth. So it's
yeah.
like, there's so many issues with it's like oh man, I wish I was a little bit better educated so I can remember the whole quote, but that one of my favorite Benjamin Franklin quotes is like, we've given you a republic, good lady, should you choose to keep it, or should you choose to
Mm,
uphold it? I forget the exact quote, but uh, at best, we're a representative republic, right?
yeah.
And that's effectively going away because our representatives need the cash that these lobbyists provide for
Yep.
them to get reelected so they can stay in power. So, like, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, you're getting people that aren't certain, you're getting representatives for the public that are not actually there to serve the public.
Hmm.
It's all under the guise of like, well, you vote on issues and then we take that to the floor to argue your point for you because true democracy is chaos and people are fucking
Mm.
stupid. So that doesn't exactly work either. So, they're supposed to be
No,
representing these
it doesn't.
people. No, yeah, exactly. And the problem is like these representatives where they're representing was set up so long ago and like 60% of human beings at this point in time live in cities.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy. So like you're getting, the representative from California is representing like 30 million people or something like
Hmm.
that each, and then you're getting the representative with the same amount of votes from Iowa who's representing like 100,000 people, and those carry the same weight.
Yep.
What do you do?
We I have some solutions, but it's not anything anyone wants to hear.
No, well, that's
It's like violence never solves anything unless you've ever opened a history book. And it's like this is what America was built on is fuck you. You're not representing us. Like I'm not like a revolutionary, like we need to overthrow it because it's like you're saying, like they if you're gonna destroy something, you have to be able to replace it. What I do think is like Fight Club, like make them represent us,
yeah.
make them afraid of us.
Easiest way to do that, man, is take the private money out of politics. Then we don't
Yeah,
even need to have a war. Then these fucking lobbyists who were part of our government at one point can't go and make the laws for people like you and I to follow
yeah,
because they don't exist because there's no more money in that.
yep. We
You
can't
know?
expect businesses or politicians to just decide to be honest all of a sudden. We
No.
have to make them be
Yes.
honest.
I think the way to do that without blood is like taking their funding away. So it's
Yeah,
not lucrative for them to do that anymore. And then maybe you'll get in a generation, if we're lucky, you'll get people that are interested in public service again.
yeah. And there's also like, um, like in Minecraft, not in real life, you could do this without killing people. You could just hit infrastructure, like cost them a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
Like I think cyber warfare is a more realistic version of this, where it's like fuck up all their networks and systems and things, and it's like this just doesn't stop until they're like they have some nerds crunch some numbers and they're like, well, actually, it'll cost you less money to just give people what they want.
Yeah. Which is like, another thing my pop has preached my whole life is like persistence. He's like, man, if you're persistent enough, people will give you what you want just
Mm.
so you'll fucking leave them
Yeah.
alone,
Yep. If
you
you're just
know?
loud and annoying
Yeah.
about it, yeah.
And I mean, we see that in terms of like, how many people in states went red this year? Like most of them, dude,
And
and
like every demographic too, like
yeah.
women, Latino, yeah.
And yet you still only hear from the same eight fucking people
Hmm.
who didn't go that way
Yep.
because it's in vogue to have those points of view.
It's a cult.
Yeah, man. I mean, like by definition, it's a cult, but that's
Oh,
that's also brilliant in and of itself.
yeah. And it's also like
Take away religion, replace it with government daddy because humans have a god-sized hole. You know, take
humans
away
have a god-sized hole. That's great. I
take
love that.
take away sky daddy, replace it with government daddy,
Yep.
and now you have every dumb dipshit in the world, which is most people, under your thumb. I mean, you just do.
Yeah.
You know,
It's yep. It's really easy to fall into that kind of thing. Um, I think it's actually just part of human nature to be um like servile, like to serve something. It's why like religion exists. It's why like monarchy exists, like systems of governance. Um, and I think ultimately it's unavoidable. Like if you don't choose your God, a God chooses you, and that's where we get like addiction and like harmful behavior is like you make a substance your God, and like everything in your life is built around this thing now. Um, and that's like I think it's unavoidable.
yeah,
So
it's
it's like
completely.
you kind of have to choose what it is you worship. Um, and maybe worship's not the right word, but you get what I'm saying?
I totally get what you're saying. And I mean, I think like that is one of the things that makes us different from animals, right? Like it
Mm,
is human nature to have that God-sized soul. And I was listening to William von Hippel on one of the podcasts that Vic really likes. I was listening to William Von Hippel, and he was saying, like, statistically, some people are more are more amenable to religion than others. I mean, some you do get people who like don't have as much of that, and people who have a lot more.
Mm.
Um, so like again, I think that's distinctly human. That's part of what makes us different from other animals is that aspect of things. So not only is it unavoidable, like that's why these fucking people in this created cult of modernity, known as wokeism or whatever you want to call it, that's why they're able to take advantage of this because these people know this and are absolutely taking advantage of it
Yep.
because it gains them power, and money tends to follow power.
Yep.
And so, if you have enough power, you don't need as much money as you might otherwise. You can get some power by being extraordinarily wealthy, you know?
We were talking about football before Alice got here, and that's like I just finished reading the Odyssey. And in ancient Greece, it was like you have this whole pantheon of gods, but like each city state has their own god. So like here we honor Athena,
Yeah.
and here we honor Zeus or Poseidon. And I feel like sports are kind of like the closest thing we have to that now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the NFL has a church tax status.
What?
Oh, yeah. This is why I love football, man. It is endlessly fascinating. And it's gotten so big that, like we were talking about before Alice got here, like it's attracting a different type of person.
It's huge.
It's not fucking meatheads anymore, man. You're
Yeah.
getting some of the most brilliant minds in their fields working for these NFL teams because it is a $100 billion business and more than that
Hmm.
if you're looking at the proxy businesses that are
Yeah.
involved, so like yeah, but they have a church tax status. For starters, what day is it on? What day is football on? It's on almost every,
Oh my God.
it's on almost every
You're
day
blowing my
anymore.
mind right now.
It's on almost every day anymore, but it started and continues to be mostly on Sunday.
Holy shit.
And if you'll notice, because we're a Christian nation, it is right around the time that church tends to stop, is when it starts.
Dude, you're blowing my mind right now.
Yeah,
Wait, so they don't have to pay taxes?
not in the same way that you and I do. No,
Dude, holy
the
shit.
players are paying taxes on their but
Oh,
like
okay.
the business
Wow.
of the NFL.
That's fucked. They have to pay taxes. Damn.
Oh yeah, dude.
Damn, that's
Oh
crazy.
yeah. And I mean, I wish I had looked into what their profit share was. And this is just because, like, my dad also points out that the NFL is one of the only successful and continually successful communistic ventures in the world.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, there's 32 owners, right? There's 32 NFL teams, there's 32 owners. They split the profits that the business makes evenly at the end of every year.
What?
Yeah.
So, okay, hold on. There's 32 owners of teams. Is that?
Yeah, there's 30. Well, there's 31 because the Green Bay, one of the original teams, that is actually communistic too, in that like it's owned by people. It's owned by the shareholders of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and elsewhere in the world because it's become ubiquitous. Football
Yeah.
has. So like you'll meet people every once in a while, like at work, one of the restaurants I work at, I'll see somebody with like a Green Bay Super Bowl ring because they're like, you know, high enough in the they have enough stake in the company that they got a ring.
Wow. So then you're saying profits collected are split among the
The
owners?
31 owners and the people of Green Bay, Wisconsin
Holy shit.
that buy into the team. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how good the team does.
No.
Whoa.
Now, for instance, I would imagine that my team that won the Super Bowl, the Eagles that won the Super Bowl, bro, part of why, aside from like, okay, part of what fascinates me too, why I love the NFL is like the gross incompetence you will see from some of these organizations, right? Like it is astounding the hubris that will lead to some of the decisions that these people make. Where like dumbasses like me are like, I could have told you not to. Vicky, who started watching football a couple of years ago, about Atlanta made a draft pick, and she goes, "Why'd they do that? That was stupid." I'm like, "See, even you fucking know." You know, you know. Uh, Profit sharing. Part of why these teams want to win so bad, other than being able to brag to their billionaire friends, is like that adds an insane amount of value in the immediate sense to your business, and then also the prestige of that. And like some of these guys, man, the money they get at the end of an NFL season is totally irrelevant to them. Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams, he's like one of the top 5 richest people in the world every single year. That's what he does for fun. He
Gotcha.
doesn't need the money from the team. So even if it's $8 billion, which I think it was last year per team, right? Or maybe it was 18, I forget. It was a lot. That money is negligible to him. He doesn't give a fuck about that money. Whereas, like, dude, the Bengals owner, Cincinnati's owner, or San Diego's owner, or the Indianapolis Colts owner, dude, those 3 teams, like, that's their only source of income, right? Uh, and as a result, like the NFL doesn't want to do guaranteed contracts for a host of reasons, but you know, one of the reasons is like if you were to give somebody a 200 million guaranteed contract, that owner has to put $200 million in escrow, which like some of these owners like just don't have in liquid cash to do that.
Yeah.
Like the Cincinnati Bengals, like man, they're notoriously cheap, and yeah, maybe just because they're cheap, but also like that's out of necessity.
Right.
Like they have some of the best players in the world right now, and they're struggling to keep them because they can't have $500 million of their liquid cash.
Does that affect their ability to like get players? Okay.
Absolutely, it does. And so, like the way the Bengals have kind of circumvented that is like they have one of the best scouting departments in the league. They grow. There's like 5 or 8 teams that really only grow home talent.
Okay.
They're one of them, and they've gotten very good at that because they know they're going to lose their best 3 players almost yearly.
Right, because they get bought for like a much bigger contract, and like, why wouldn't you go do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
these players, man, like, yo, the NFL stands for a couple things. For one, the most popular one is the no fun league because they're pretty strict. For two, not for long, right? The average NFL career is 2.5 years. Yeah,
Damn.
dude. So people are like, can you believe that they're getting paid this much money? It's like, dude, for starters, these men permanently destroy their bodies. Their
Yeah.
only vessel for their soul that they get in this waking reality,
Yeah.
right? A lot of these guys, man, never reach $1 million a year.
Right.
90% of them never make that much money. So it's like, well, that's
And they still
disgusting.
suffer the physical
The
ramifications of
same
it.
ones as everybody
Yeah.
else,
Yep.
So it's like, you put a price on never being able to sleep comfortably ever again. It's like, how, yeah, seriously.
That's
Like,
nuts.
not only that, like the head injuries.
Yeah. I saw this thing about helmets. Was it you telling me about this?
Hmm.
Someone's telling me that helmets actually cause more injuries because now people like are more aggressive with like, that's what it was. Rugby is like less equipment, but less injury because those guys aren't charging you with their fucking heads.
Yeah,
Whereas like this helmet emboldens you to like be a lot more reckless. You get more head and neck and back injuries just because you're like going in.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and like,
It's a
man,
dangerous sport.
people routinely, especially at this point, folks that will be a little bit older than you or I, complain about like, oh, football's soft now. It's like, and yet there's more injuries every year than
Yeah.
ever before because between sports science and the industry that's growing around these things, man, you're getting dudes that like, there was a couple dudes that were in the 350 pound range that ran faster than I could run. by a lot, by like a lot.
Damn, they're just strong as fuck.
Man, they're enormous. They're fast. Like they just keep getting bigger and faster. And like the NFL is worried that these guys are going to start dying if they don't do something. So it's like,
Mm.
oh, the NFL is soft. It's like, well,
Kind of sounds like the opposite. Like it's getting more intense.
in some ways. In other ways, like it's not because of a lot of the stuff that's come out. Like you go back and watch the NFL from the 90s, you're like, oh my God, what the fuck? But I mean, if you let dudes that are this big and this fast do that to each other, now the people would start dying. That's it. I mean,
Mm.
you can't have someone going at 22 miles an hour with pads on, mind you. This is not just like they're just running down. No, I mean, they have like they're in armor moving as fast as a deer.
Yeah.
You can, and like weighing 230 pounds, you can't have that person running into somebody that's 185 also going 20 miles an hour. Bro, they're
Yeah.
gonna die.
Yeah. That's damn, that's
People are like,
crazy.
well, women could play football too. I'm like, no, they can't. I'm sorry. Like, I was my mom was a big breadwinner in my house. She was the baddest lady and a powerful lady when I was growing up. Right. Like, I don't have this whole like, well, you get back in the kitchen. Like, that's just not who I am.
When it
Well,
comes to sports, there's obviously a disparity between men and women.
like, well, women could play in the NFL too. It's like, no, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, they can't. They just can't do. Nobody wants to see that. We're talking about like really watching people get badly hurt that they will
Yeah.
never recover from on television. Like,
Yeah. They're like we're talking about like world class athletes. Like there are plenty of women that could beat the shit out of me, but like
absolutely, me too, man.
but you like put them in the NFL, like they're gonna get hurt.
I'm not trying to get in an MMA ring with
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey, dude. She,
Yeah.
that would hurt me.
Yeah.
But like,
Speaking of contact sports, like I don't know a lot about football, but I watch UFC and occasionally boxing.
yeah,
And it's a similar thing with boxing where it's like people think UFC is more brutal, but boxing is actually way more
for a
brutal.
bunch of reasons too.
Yeah. Because like you get like debilitating injury, like the fight's over kind of thing in the UFC. But in the boxing, they go more rounds and you're getting hit in the head repeatedly, which is a lot more brain injury.
And you're supposed to get up. Like that's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
That's the whole thing is you get back up in boxing.
It's a lot harder for me to watch a boxing match than like a UFC fight. Like
Yeah,
if you're in an octagon, like, and you go 3, 5 rounds, like I mean, that's brutal.
yeah,
But like boxing is like these guys are getting gassed out. This is like taking a long term health problems.
yeah.
It's
And
brutal as shit.
well, that's why you get guys like people criticize Floyd Mayweather because of like his almost lack of brutality,
Mm.
right? Like people, he's the best boxer ever, and certainly from a record standpoint, that is
Hard to
unarguable,
argue with.
hard to
Yeah.
argue with. You know what I mean? Uh, but like that's why he was able to do that for so long is because like man, he just didn't get hit.
Mm.
Like he was able to get away. And like honestly, man, you're seeing a lot of to bring it back, you're seeing a lot of NFL players now. Where like, dude, some of the guys on our team, the control they have over their bodies, like they don't. We have a guy who's like he's like half an inch taller than I am, right? We weigh the same thing going up against other NFL players, but like he's so good at not actually taking hits a lot of the time. Like they consult all kinds of different fields. I would be shocked if they didn't have like stuntmen come in
Mm.
and teach these guys how to fall.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
uh, teach these guys how to use their momentum not to get hurt.
Right.
And this is what I was talking about by like, dude, it's such a huge industry that you're just attracting different folks. Like NFL coaches, I bet you didn't know this either, dude. Most NFL coaches are working 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. Half of them sleep in their offices.
Whoa.
They have no family life. They all, at the end of the season, thank their families because, like, man, they're just not there.
What are they doing?
Well, man, again,
Because it's not like
you're getting some like they have a couple thousand really truly brilliant people. Like you're getting less and less like NFL lifers that are like coaches. Again, it's not like the guy is just like, it's still like, hey, we're going to be tough, but that's not the only thing. Like, dude, our Phillies head coach has his master's or doctorate in education.
Mm.
Like he's revolutionized. Our GM too has revolutionized the way that $100 business goes about their business because they've employed the most brilliant people. So like you're getting these guys who like it's like human chess. It's just like human chess. And so now we've gotten away from like the rah rah meathead guy into like these really deeply thoughtful
Yeah.
humans who just like their whole job as a coach is to outsmart these other brilliant people.
Damn.
you
That's
know
wild. 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. Like, are they like, I guess I just don't understand what they're doing in like that time. Because are like, it's not like, are the players drilling that
well,
much?
think about this way, right? Like Elon Musk famously like has a fucking cot in the Tesla factory.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, dude, big time. Like that guy doesn't sleep.
Hmm.
He just works all the time. Or like Steve Jobs or like any of those guys, man. Right? I mean, like they just are like notorious and classic workaholics. We're just like that's their sole focus.
I guess that's the only way you get to where those guys are at. Yeah.
Same way with these NFL coaches, man. Because again, if you think about it in the right light, like they're the face. They're not really pulling all the strings, but they're the face of minimum an $8 billion business,
Hmm.
right? So
There's
like,
a lot of pressure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of pressure, you know,
And a bunch of people that want your job.
and a bunch of people whose livelihood and where their kids are going to school and the kind of life that their family's going to be able to have is
Hmm.
relying on you being able to do your job better than the next guy.
Yeah.
So you have
There's a lot of people dependent
1500
on you.
1500 people that need you to be able to do their job at all. So like I mean it's a
That's wild.
dude, it is wild. And like I know people used to less so, but people used to make fun of Will and I for being obsessed with football. But like, man, that's taught me so many things about how to go about. You get these like 20-year-old kids who are like real full-grown adults who like work harder than you or I could
Hmm.
even fathom. And we both do a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah, but not I'm not like those guys.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
They
yeah,
eat, sleep, and breathe what they do
yeah.
all day, every day,
Yep.
like a machine. Yep.
I dated this woman who graduated from Juilliard for the violin, and I forget the exact context, but I said, I compared myself to an NFL player, and she was like, "Well, yeah, but you don't put that kind of time in."
Mm.
That was profound to me. I mean, she was fucking
I mean,
so right.
it's true. Like I remember first time I had Sydney Mays on the podcast, I was like, so what do you do for fun? And he's like, thought about it a second, and he's like, man, I don't know what to tell you. I just play guitar. And I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, you do, don't you?
yeah,
Like you just play guitar all day, every day. That's what you're doing when I don't see you, is you're just fucking playing guitar at your house.
yeah,
It's like I'll invite Sydney to go do shit, and he's like, I'm going on the road for this artist, or like I need to like make sure my chops are what they need to be, or like, which I mean, this is Sydney Mays. Like imagining he has to like, it's like no, that's what he does.
because
And
he's going to be compared to the likes of Guthrie Trapp,
yeah,
or I mean, like that's the problem is like
he's a fucking machine, man.
yeah, dude, and I think he'd be the first person to cite 10 dudes that would eat his lunch.
Oh yeah, 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 for sure.
That's the other fucked up
He's
part.
also very humble about it. Like,
I don't even mean in that regard. I just mean
yeah,
like, man, when I got to music school, I wanted to be like I'm trying to think of a name you might know. Do you know who Paul Gilbert is?
mm-mm.
You
Not by
probably
name.
you probably know him from like the one band he was in that had a pop hit. You're like, I'm the one who wants
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
be. He was the guitar player in that band, right?
Okay.
Um, he's like very possibly the best technician that has ever lived on the guitar, right? That's who I wanted to be when I got to music school. Well, I realized pretty quickly that,
No, you don't.
well, man, like I knew some guys like very well that like, bro, I was never going to have the athletic prowess that they had
Mm,
moving around my instrument. I just never, and even if I did want to do that, and I did for a time, I didn't actually. I didn't want to put in the time that was
you
gonna,
like to have a life also.
well, and
I
just
feel
like,
like,
I wanted to make music, man. Like
yeah,
those guys aren't making music, like they're
that's what I was about to
technicians.
say is
Yeah.
like you make art, and I feel like watching you get play guitar is like you're using this as a vehicle to communicate something. It's like this is
Thank you.
art
That's a
focused.
huge compliment. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
man. I'm a big fan of yours. Like
Thanks,
we're
man.
good friends, but I really like what you do. Um,
Thanks,
but
man.
yeah, I've seen you in so many different things.
Well, that's goes back to challenging myself because I just feel like Ben said something early on in our relationship that I found unbelievably profound. And I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man.
Uh, he looked at me one time and was like, "Hey, can I give you a piece of advice?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, like, please, that would be great." I don't even remember what it was. No idea what the advice was. I don't remember that part of the conversation. Something about singing because like I haven't been singing that long. Um, and after that, he paused and he thought for a second. He's like, man, that's what I like about you. Like you actually want to get better. And
Yeah.
that blew my fucking mind because
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, fucking duh. Of course I
Yeah.
what brought that up? Because like the idea that I'm unique in that was alien to me, man. So you see me do a bunch of different things and styles of things because it's like, yeah, maybe I can't do that yet.
Yeah.
you know?
I think like with you, there's like a balance of the art, but you are also extremely proficient. Like I'll say that. You don't have to say that. I know like for you, it's like people that are like fucking insane. So
Yeah,
it's
dude,
like
yes.
maybe hard for you to see it that way, but like I think it's a balance of knowing how to do things and also like doing it for a reason that's like wholesome. It's art.
Yeah.
But like I people on that are like really good at something, like sometimes they do, even when people that are not really good at something, like have a hard time learning from people,
Yeah.
like because it's a pride thing. Like I'm like you in that way where it's like um I'm willing to learn from anyone. It's like if you spend time around children, like little kids, you'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
It's like you can learn, not even kids, like if you just go outside and look at nature and if you just pay attention, you will learn things. But as you get older, like people develop the pride about like, oh, I already know everything. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't know shit. None of
Yeah.
us know a goddamn thing.
The more I learn, the less I know. I mean, that's like, an old hackneyed truism, but it's
It's
true
true.
for a reason,
It's very
you know?
true. You get more questions than answers when you expand your mind.
I saw a great meme that was one of the truest things I've ever. And look, granted, this was also something I was kind of experiencing at the time. Like people, people kind of laugh at me when I'm like, oh, I'm still probably better at the guitar, but like I'm getting pretty good at the bass. And I mean that. I mean, I'm getting pretty good at the bass, right? And they're like,
You're
awesome.
really
You're
good at
awesome
the
at the bass.
bass.
I'm
Yeah.
like, thank you. I'm not even saying that that's not true. What I am saying is that like I started doing that just well enough that I could play Carmen Vulture
Mm.
songs, and it was something I fell into. A
Yeah.
conversation with Will, where I wanted to sing because I've always wanted to be a singer. Never thought I would be. Arguably, I'm still not on some days. Uh, but I wanted to sing, and I was like, "We should find a bass player." And he's like, "Nah, man, you should just play the bass."
Mm.
And I was like, "But that's really hard." And he goes, "Oh yeah, man, you're good. You'll figure it out."
Yeah.
The reason I still do this today. Uh, so I say, I'm starting to get good at the bass, and people are confused. And it's like the meme I saw was like, like a picture book. with like a couple pages, and it was like uh playing the bass, and then the picture underneath was like a thesaurus, you know. It was like being good at the bass,
Mm.
which I just found so profound because it's like it's harder to get to proficiency at the guitar. What is
Oh, I
considered
see what you're
proficiency,
saying.
it takes longer to get to
I see what you're
proficiency
saying.
on the guitar or the piano, or I guess I can't really speak for the drums, than it does to get from like proficient to like above average. Whereas the bass, like it takes a lot longer to get from proficiency to above average than does in the guitar.
Yeah,
Like you can like not play the bass for very long and start playing in a band and build a career off of that and never get very good,
right. I see what
right?
you're saying.
Whereas the guitar, like, dude, you could be like a sick guitar player and nobody wants to hire you because there's so many of them.
Yeah,
And there's so many people that are so disgustingly good, you know, who also need work. So it's like, but the bass is like, dude, getting like really good at the bass, like, I would argue is just as difficult, if not a lot more difficult, than getting like really good at the guitar.
that reminds me of I've been saying and not doing, but like saying for a long time that I want to get a brass instrument,
Yeah.
and um, I was leaning towards trombone, which you have a trombone or did? Did you ever find it?
No.
Rest in peace.
The problem there is it's
That's a little
not,
suspicious. Like, where does a trombone go?
bro, I don't know. And like, it's not, it wasn't mine.
It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna put this in my pocket. Like, it's a fucking trombone.
No. And Vicky and I both remember me putting it into my car the last time I used it.
Yeah,
And we
this
remember
is this
seeing
is
it.
weird. This
We
is
remember
sus.
seeing it at our house. And
Mm,
then it just wasn't there anymore.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Someone stole your trombone, dude.
maybe even just by accident.
No, you don't accidentally steal someone's trombone out of their
Yeah.
car. What are you talking
It
about?
wasn't in the car. It was in my house. It was at our
It
house,
was
but
in your
it
house.
was at like our old place with Josh. But there was like people there all
Oh,
the time.
okay. Yeah.
You
That
know what I
still
mean?
doesn't. Oh, is this my trombone? I don't think so, dude. I don't think that's your trombone in someone else's house.
Or someone that was there was like, "Oh, I forgot my instrument." I don't look, man. I don't know.
I, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, like, dude, look, I don't know because like I've never lost an instrument before.
It's just a funny thing to go missing to
Yeah,
me. Like, that's really random.
if it was mine, I'd be bummed out, but I'd be like, well,
But yeah, no, I hear
but
you.
it's Ben's, so
Yeah.
sorry, Ben. I love you,
Um,
buddy. Thanks for not yelling at me.
but so I was thinking trombone, and then someone was telling me trumpet. Um, and I'm like, but that seems more complicated because of the keys. But like, kind of what you're saying about guitar and bass is like it might be harder to pick up, but like because there's less going on, less involved with the trombone, that's like harder to master.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, which makes sense. That totally makes sense.
yeah. Well, dude, and it's like again, never something I. It was really only during COVID when like you know 2 weeks to flatten the curve passed 4 weeks because fuck you passed
Mm.
6 weeks, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna be trapped inside for who knows how long, I may as well actually learn how to play the bass. And so I started. I decided very stubbornly that I was no longer going to use a pick, which wouldn't have been a problem, except not long after that, we decided to make the next Karma record. So like there's definitely stuff on that last Karma record where it's like, yeah, I wasn't good enough at this to to make that distinction, arbitrary or otherwise, that I just decided to make and go with, like it's like, oh man, I left some quite a bit of meat on the bone there, if you will.
Yeah.
Karma started writing a new record,
Hell yeah.
albeit slowly because of me, I think.
There's music y'all have I don't think I've heard yet, so I'm excited to think maybe y'all might be doing some of that soon.
We're playing at the very least two completely unheard and up to this point, however many days, 10, I think, before the show, are still having some finishing touches put on, potentially right after this. Um, so at least two new songs that are unrecorded and completely unheard by literally anybody except for us and the people that are next to us at the rehearsal place, you know. And then I think we're playing a song from our last record that we've never played live in Nashville, and I've only played live one other time as kind of like a fuck it funsy throwaway thing up in Dayton, Ohio at Blind Bob's in Dayton. Check out Blind Bob's, cool little diving spot.
Every time I've seen Karma Vulture many times since I've met you,
Yeah, thank you for that.
and it's always different. Like every time it's a unique experience. Um, I like how like y'all like bleed things together. Like you'll start something, go into something completely different, then come back. Like it's really cool.
We started doing that because we were bored.
Yeah, it's really like
We played the same.
I never know what to expect. It's really fun.
That's cool. That's also flattering because like you said that to me, I think after either the Vinyl Lounge or maybe the five spot when I ate shit on stage. For the second time in 20 years of playing music on stage.
You did too.
I know, I really did. I'd heard.
And it like detuned your bass too,
Oh,
right?
it sure did. And I couldn't figure out what was going on either.
You recovered very well.
Um, I think your comment was like, man, you should do that more often.
Yeah, you also had a great.
And you also said that like it was different every time. And I was like, thank you for saying that because like we started kind of doing like the shtick that we've been doing because like we were so bored of playing the same 15 songs like for 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever.
It's got to be fun for you guys. Like that's the most
Yeah,
important part. Otherwise, no one's gonna care unless y'all are having a good time.
exactly.
I've seen so many bands where it's like they're so stiff and they're not. They don't like. What are you? Why are you here? Like,
To
what are
show
you
you
doing?
music.
Yeah, it's like one would think, right? But it's like y'all are not having a good time. Y'all look like you just got done being fucking pissed at each other. Y'all don't even like each other. Like you're I don't understand why you're here. It's like what's your goal? It's like if it's not to just have a good time playing music with your friends and like for other people to share in that, then like I don't understand what your objective is.
Yeah. Well, like, man, this goes back to a part of our conversation earlier where it's like, hey, if you can do something else, do it.
Yeah.
You know, like Winton said to me, and I don't know if he wants this out in the world or not,
It's
but
just Alice. She won't tell anyone.
yeah, thank you. Perfect. I know. Thanks, Alice. Winton was like, the context almost doesn't matter, but he was just like, I think I was commenting on, because we're making a new record with Winton. We finished tracking maybe 2 weeks ago.
Hell
We're like
yeah.
maybe almost halfway through mixing, maybe a little less than
I've gotten
halfway.
to hear some of that. It's really, really
I don't
nice.
think you've heard any of the new mixes there.
Probably
We'll,
not.
we'll get to that. But so I was saying to Winton, like just like watching him sing in the studio, like every aspect of that band, everybody's serious, like we all want to get it right.
Yeah.
But watching him sing in the studio, being an aspiring singer on some days and like almost a singer on other days, like watching him just do these like really challenging vocal, like it's not kid shit. Like he's
Mm,
he's really laying it all out there. Not only is he laying it all out there, man, like 3 takes and he's done.
yeah. Well, dude, those fucking
And he
System of a Down covers y'all did. It's like, holy shit, dude. It's like he's like fucking excited about it. He's like fucking all in on this insane vocal shit.
hey man, when I tell Alice that uh his music, no matter how challenging, does not do his vocal chops
Mm,
justice, I mean that. We were at a show, it was the only show with this lineup of the band that like pretty objectively, at least according to the four of us, did not go well. And it wasn't even really our fault. Like the sound guy kept asking us if he was looking at his ass or a hole in the ground for 35 minutes. So we're like waiting on stage for him to figure it out. Super nice fellow. Like I'm not even trying to talk shit. Uh he loved the band, but it just was like an awkward situation that we found ourselves in for like 3 or maybe 4 times as long as we thought we were going to be there. Um we were all pretty frustrated. It did not go very well. Uh and he got up with the reveal and like after he did his little guest spot on the song, hey, or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
he did some stuff on there where I'm just like jaw on the floor. And Star looks over at me, Gav's girlfriend, Star looks over at me and goes like, that was sick. And I was like, that doesn't begin to describe what you just saw. Like that was like some all time. I can't believe I even just got to see that kind of shit. Uh, so he like walks in the studio, does three, some songs, four takes of the song, and is like done. It's more just like what delivery of which line are we feeling? Not
Mm.
like was this good?
Yeah.
You know, and my man's human. Like, man, there's like little imperfections or like little spots where like, oh, that was a little flat. Maybe use the next take. But like, bro, for me, I'm not walking in the vocal booth for 20 minutes a song. Like, get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. I'm warming up for 20 minutes, dude.
Mm.
And then let's hope we only have to do 10 takes before I'm happy with it. You know, and like just like watching this guy like waltz in there, excuse me, take five, smoke a cigarette, drink some water, and then go in there and like do like things that most people just can't do. And then
Yeah.
be like, yep, I'm done now. And everyone else is like, yeah, man, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
That was
fucking.
it.
I was like, well, maybe I'm not a singer. I'm certainly not. I can't do that.
Yeah, he's a badass. Very excited for y'all to headline Bunny Roo. We got a great lineup this year.
Dude, that's gonna be a blast.
Have you seen HR Lexi before?
No, I've not. I see you have their.
Dude,
I see we have.
you are in for a fucking treat.
Ah,
They're so awesome.
man, I'm excited.
I've been following them for like 10 years.
Oh no shit, they've been around for a
Yeah.
while.
Mhm.
Well, I guess I mean you know that's
Yeah,
vinyl's not always a.
that's their second full length release, I think. But yeah, they've been around. They're like one of the first bands I saw when I moved here, like 2015, 2016.
Oh yeah,
And like hands down, one of my favorites. They're so sick.
not to be confused with Lexi from HR.
Yeah. Um, so I've been meaning to get back to this, but before we started, we were talking about whippets.
We were. That's true.
And you were talking about the getting stuck in a point in time,
Yes.
which I think is a very interesting thing because like that doesn't seem like an experiential thing. That seems like of course it's a experiential thing. What am I trying to say?
It becomes experiential, but it's almost like a glitch.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Is
You've
like,
disrupted the way your brain is functioning.
yeah. And also like, okay, another example. When I take acid, I guess mushrooms too, but I haven't noticed this as much with
Yeah.
mushrooms. Weird, crazy, weird things happen leading up to me dosing
Yep.
than during the time that I'm tripping. And oh, wait, we talked about
Yeah,
this.
we have
You
talked
have a
about this.
similar experience where it's like, this is not a side effect. This has nothing to do with the fact that I'm tripping. Weird things are happening in reality
Yeah.
leading up to it, the day after.
Yep.
And I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Well, man, it's like in terms of like, let's say for the sake of argument that we are living in some version of the Matrix, you know, like the like simulation theory, which like I don't really have strong feelings about one way or another. I lean towards like that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I got a lot to say about that, but we'll come back to it.
Yeah. Okay. Um, you're about to disrupt that,
Mm.
right? You're about to disrupt the Matrix in so many words. Like
It is a glitch. Yeah.
you're about to glitch it out on purpose. And so like maybe it's an acknowledgement of the world around you that that's about to take place.
Those are huge implications though, because that means that what does that say about the nature of existence at all? You know?
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, okay, well, this works in a way that's not like intuitive. Like it kind of feels like we're in a simulation. But like the thing about a simulation is it's simulating something.
Yeah.
So maybe not that this is an artificial version of something that is, but more like it's I think the Matrix argument and the God argument are identical. Like what there is no
Yes.
difference.
Yeah. The Matrix is almost like a the God argument for modernity, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like replacing the Greek gods with sports kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
Exactly.
it's a like the digital way of understanding the religious thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is literally like what difference is there in saying that this is designed by a programmer and saying that there's a God that created this? There is no
Not
difference.
really, none.
Yeah.
You know, um, and again, it's just whatever you'd like to call it is almost irrelevant, at least philosophically, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't. Again, like the world around us has changed so rapidly that like we're all like, at least for me, my folks are 36 and 40 years older than I am, and like my dad's folks certainly were like 40 and 45 years older than he was.
Mm,
So like both my father and I have one foot in the old world and one foot in the new, in
mm,
so many words, right? Like uh I grew up kind of with a cell phone, but like, my dad didn't have a color TV until he was like 12.
yeah.
So like he wasn't exactly around before electricity, but I would doubt that my grandfather growing up as a little boy, for instance, I know he grew up on a farm. I'd be shocked if in what, like, he'd be 125 today, my grandfather, my dad's dad.
Wow.
Something like that. So, or 120 maybe. I forget exactly, but maybe the farm that he grew up on had electricity, maybe it didn't. And then his father, my great grandfather, emigrated here from Ireland,
Mm.
where parts of
Those are
Ireland,
completely different. Like the like periods of time are different worlds,
yes,
different universes than what we live in.
parts of Ireland didn't have electricity until the 70s, the
Yeah.
1970s.
We can't even begin to imagine what that would like actually in practice be like to
No,
live in that. And I think like it's accelerationist too, because like technology is not like a gradual progression. It's like a boom.
yep,
And like so the world's going to be even more unrecognizable to the next
yeah,
generation, the generation after that.
100%.
It's only like crazy accelerationist from here until like we what's that Terrence McKenna quote that's like World War III will be fought with stones and sticks or something like that.
Oh God,
Like
that's
basic,
interesting.
yeah, like or maybe it was World War III is nuclear and then World War IV is like we're back to the Stone Age.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, man, I mean, like, to me, it's an interesting question that like a lot of people are starting to ask in so many words, in their own way, but it's like, really, society started 6,000 years ago? We sure about
yeah.
that? Yeah, no fucking shot. I'm sorry, no shot.
That's not even what man, that's a whole thing.
Yeah,
That's not even what the Bible's about.
no.
That's like a complete misinterpretation
Well,
of scripture.
forget the Bible. I mean, we're just talking about carbon dating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
But what I'm saying is science is not in conflict with religion. It's that people don't understand religion, especially religious people.
yeah,
Christians know less about the Bible than anyone.
yeah.
And it's like, that's not
Well,
what it is. It's not
that's
saying the earth is 6,000 years old. But yeah, without religion, obviously, humanity is much, much older than that. What I'm saying is like, even the Bible is not contradicting that.
no.
Yeah.
Well, and like the argument of like, well, yeah, I mean, like cities, the first city was like 5 or 6,000 years ago. It's like, I don't think there's a good argument for that. Just from a logistics standpoint, like the human psyche, in so many words, hasn't changed almost
Mm,
at all in 100,000 years. And 6,000 years
that's a
ago was
good
the
point.
first fucking time that people grouped together. Fuck, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
get
point.
you. You can't talk on both sides. The same people that will tell you that biologically we've not changed at all in 100,000 years are the same fucking people will be like, yeah, the first city was 6,000 years ago. It's like, come on, you're contradicting yourself. That doesn't
Yeah.
make any fucking sense. You're using I learned this phrase from my brother. Recency bias. You're using recency
Hmm.
bias. You've made that into your thesis, and now you're clinging to it like the fucking rock hurling through the universe that we all find ourselves on.
I think there's a lot of things about history that we're just like there are people that know this is false and are lying to us.
Hmm.
Like we're not even the most advanced culture that we're aware of. Like we're most certainly not the most advanced culture that's existed.
Yeah.
But like even in like we like to think we're so much smarter than everyone
I mean,
else.
define advanced though, right?
Okay,
Like
sure. So in some ways we are more advanced, but like we're also dumber than like the Greeks were.
almost by
Uh
necessity, man.
yeah, well, I mean that's part of the problem, right? Is like
And
we
again,
have it so quality of life is so good.
we're standing on the shoulders of giants and
Yes,
exclaiming, "Look how
yes.
tall I am!"
Yep,
You know that
yep.
that's a
And
big
it's
part of it.
idiocracy from here. Like
Yes.
we're going to continue to get. They're having a hard time building airplanes because they can't find people that know how to build airplanes, like welders and
Yeah,
like
because instead of teaching children, here's how you build a fucking airplane, you're going like, you could be one of 74 genders.
yeah,
And they're like,
you could be a YouTuber,
what?
you could be a
I mean,
TikToker.
dude, but I mean, that to me is so many things in our country could be fixed by going back to like a classical education,
Mm,
you know, teaching people facts instead of how to wrangle emotions. We're focused on the emotional side of things right now. And I think a lot of that's on purpose
I
because
was just about to say all this is intentional.
it's
This is by design.
completely intentional. And like, again, you listen to Yuri Bezmenov talk about how communism will infiltrate the free world. I mean, that's what's been happening.
Yep.
He was wrong, but only by 40 years. He wasn't wrong. He was just wrong
Yeah.
as to how long it would take.
Yep. Yeah.
And you could
It's
argue American ingenuity and the American spirit made that take longer than he thought it was going to.
yep. And
But
now it's
part of that
just
is the lack of homogeny. And I'm sorry, I've cut you off twice
no, no,
now.
no. We're just it's like you're saying. We just got sold down the river. Like I'm very much a patriot, very much a believer in what America is supposed to be.
The
But
idea
that's not the world we live in.
we're united by an idea.
Yeah.
We're not homogenous,
Yep.
and people compare us to other homogenous nations and say, look how terrible America is. It's like, you've missed the point.
It's kind of like we're accepting of all backgrounds, races, like ethnicities. Like it doesn't matter where you're from, but we do have a set of ideas that we're like borderline religious about,
Yeah.
and you do have to integrate.
Yes.
You cannot come here and impose your own ideas on us.
Well,
That's not, I mean, it's happening, but it's not, that's in theory, that's not supposed to happen.
no. And man, it's happening because of like clumsy, run of the mill human greed. That's the
Yep.
saddest part. Is like it's not even happening for like progressive advancement. It's happening because of dumbasses and their greed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sad part. Is just like, hey man, like I could see breaking down certain aspects of antiquated ideas within our constitution, which is a slippery slope in and of itself. I would never say that it's not, but I could see the argument for some of this stuff. Not
Can
the
you give me an
argument.
example?
I'll give you a non-example.
Okay.
Uh, the right to bear arms. Well, they didn't anticipate automatic. Fuck you. Fuck you. They didn't anticipate automatic weapons. We're guarding against tyranny. The solid weapon is fucking irrelevant.
Wait,
Right?
I thought you were saying, oh, that's a non-example.
That's a
Okay,
non-exact.
sorry, go
That's an
ahead.
example of like that people might be like, oh, he probably means guns. No, I don't mean guns. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Okay. For instance, we started talking about the disproportionate number of citizens that certain representatives are in charge of, in so many words,
Mm,
right? Like that's maybe slightly antiquated because I don't think our founding fathers really envisioned us becoming a multinational superpower that attracts the entirety of the rest of the earth. So like trying to update the laws surrounding that, like to make a little bit more sense. Like again, the 100,000 people in Iowa simply should not get the same vote as the 30 million people in Los Angeles.
yeah.
Look, I'm too stupid to
The
tell you
electoral college stuff is weird for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, all to try and fight tyranny. I'll give you another example that people might use. It's like doing your taxes is a pain in the ass. It's like, well, yeah, but that's a guard against tyranny. That way, a tyrannical government can't just say, "Well, you actually owe me every dime that you made this year." they know how much you're really supposed to pay. And it's your job to figure that out so that they can't just come up with an arbitrary number to
Oh,
fuck you in the ass.
oh, interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, doing your taxes is a pain, but it's part of freedom. Freedom is not convenient. And people, unfortunately, have ascribed to the God that is convenience and will die
Mm,
for it. You
mm.
know, Karma's second record is called Death by Comfort because it's just like,
Yeah,
nothing worth doing is easy. And if it seems easy, you're either one in a billion or you're fucking wrong,
yeah.
you know?
That's an interesting take on taxes. Um, it's interesting. It's not voluntary. Like I don't have a choice on whether I want to pay my
Oh,
taxes or
you
not.
do. Your choice, unfortunately, is to maybe go to jail. You do have a choice. I mean,
Fair enough.
absolutely.
I could
I
just kill
cannot.
myself and not
I
pay taxes.
I cannot do my taxes, but there's repercussions to that decision.
Sure,
You
sure, sure.
know?
Okay, there's a choice in that way, but it's like it's forced on you. It kind of is kind of my point.
Absolutely, and that's where people are like, "But this isn't convenient," and it's like, well, neither neither is a tyrannical government saying, "Actually, you owe me everything you've ever made, and you're to pay it by tomorrow, or we're going to throw you in jail."
I
You
think I'm
know?
like more going the other way, where I'm like, if we want a road, if you and I want to build a road, you and I can invest our money to hire a company to do that. And if other people don't want to invest in that road, we can be like, okay, well, you didn't help with that. So like if you're going to use our road, you have to pay a toll.
Sure.
But it's like um what my taxes are getting spent on, I don't really have any control over. I guess what
No,
I'm saying is
we're
like,
supposed to. This goes back to the representative republic, right?
yeah,
The representatives are supposed to, and like, hey, man, at least on my part, feeling like I have no say over where this money goes. Part of that's apathy, man. Like,
yeah,
I don't, I can't vote. I don't know. I have no idea what the Tennessean issues I should be voting on are because,
yeah,
man, I have a life, you know?
yeah. We're all too busy and tired and distracted to play a part in the way things go.
Yeah.
And that's all intentional.
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to intentionality from, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. And that's what we're living through.
Yeah.
And, you get the occasional sentient, intelligent folk who are
Yeah.
like, no, you have to care about this.
Um, this is like we got to wrap it up because you got to
Mhm.
get to practice. But this is a bleak note to end it on, so I want to like just end it on a high note.
Yeah, let's do it.
What do you? We were talking about worship earlier. How everyone
Yeah.
worships either intentionally or unintentionally. What do you worship? Okay, well, I mean, yeah, you worship. I like you worship other things too, though that are
Oh,
good.
tons of other stuff, man. Music, for sure, music. I mean, like, man, I every once in a while, you run into somebody because like some easy small talk that can lead to big talk, if you will. At least for in my own life, is like talking about music with people because
Mm,
that's both. That used to be very universal what people were listening to because they didn't have much of a choice,
yeah,
and it can also be very personal, and often is very personal anymore. You know, um, and every once in a while, you meet somebody that's like, I don't really listen to music.
yeah,
That
that's
that's
weird.
that's
What do you mean?
troubling to me, man.
I don't
Like,
believe them.
that's
Like you're lying to me.
that's such a big part of my life. Like, when I'm feeling happy, music. When I'm feeling sad, music. When I'm
Mm,
feeling apathetic, music. When I don't have any feeling and I'd like to feel something, music. Like when I'm bored, music. When I walk around much of my day singing because, like, aside from the breath work aspect of that, because singing is like a lot of breath work,
mm.
which is really good for you, really good for your psyche, and good for your
Cardio.
vagus nerve, and good for your heart, good for your brain. Um, you're vibrating your body,
Mm.
and like that cannot help but physiologically do
That's
things to you
interesting. I like to sing in the car, and that's like a very I feel good.
because you're in a heightened state of anxiety and stress.
Interesting.
And so singing is like somewhat of an antidote to that. Everybody sings in their car. You know why? Because like we did not evolve to travel at 80 miles an hour.
Wow. You're making like a very compelling argument for it being a religion, like being a religious practice,
Absolutely. Well, dude,
like a spiritual thing.
I say all the time, like especially to other musicians, like, hey, we get to lead one of the only societally acceptable shamanistic rituals.
Damn.
And like, man,
Fuck, man.
when there's a room
Yeah.
full of people, that
Oh,
is like such, and I hate to use this word, I'm gonna use it anyway. That's such a blessing for me to be a part of. Anytime people
that's power.
are like, thank you for playing, in the back of my head, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Thank you for playing. Like, I was gonna play if there was nobody here.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here and giving me this thing that I yearn for 100% of the time.
It is one of the most important things people could do. Like just from personal experience, I would not be here without live music.
Me either, buddy.
Yeah.
Me either, man. Like,
So what you do is very important, and you never really know the impact that, like, even though you're aware of it, it's still like you are having an impact on people's lives that you cannot possibly wrap your head around, right?
that's why I play music. That's
Yeah.
why I make records. Because, like, for me, growing up, like, it might be shocking to you. I'm an imperfect person.
What?
I have very deep seated neuroses, and I sometimes have a really hard time taking part in the horrors of reality. And music
Mm,
always made that burden so much lighter and easier for me to carry.
yeah.
And I've always wanted the, uh, quite frankly, like the beautiful gift of being able to do that for anyone else.
Dude, and look at the community it's allowed us to like create
Yeah,
and
man.
be a part of, like real connection, real friendship. Like this man, there's a lot of people that just don't have this, like don't have the group of, like, we're very blessed
Yeah, man.
to have the like amazing, wonderful people in our lives.
Connected and alone. And we're all
Yeah.
connected and alone. And that's why music to me is like, it's one of the last communal, like, people in Los Angeles wanted to paint my group of folks who you know very well at this point, as well as anybody.
Yeah.
They wanted to paint us in a certain light. And like, aside from just like, fuck you and your smooth
Hmm.
brain tactics, as you put it, aside from just like the vitriol, I always felt that that was really unfair because, like, I don't think any of us, like, part of the beauty of a show, a music show, a musical experience is like how you think and feel about things is irrelevant in that moment.
Yeah.
We're all here
The
to share this
community. That's what makes
experience.
it so dangerous to those people,
Yes.
because it brings everyone together. Nothing matters except this moment. Like nothing exists at all
And we didn't
except
care
for
who you
this.
were. Yo, I don't
Yeah.
care if we disagree on everything. Come fucking party with us for a few minutes.
Yep.
Dude, let's forget about that aspect of life and just do this beautiful thing where we're all connected at this little sweet spot of this chaos for a moment.
Yeah.
Like that. I've always wanted to do that for other people. And like,
Well, Alice, you can see Connor do that this Friday with Winton Existing at Eastside Bowl, and then at with Karma Vulture with Omen Bringer at
yeah,
Exit In. What's the date on that?
314.
Hell yeah! And then Bunny Roo,
Yeah.
come to that too.
Yes. Come to Bunny. Come to all of it. And if you can only make it to one, come see Karma at the Exit In.
Yeah, that's gonna
Uh,
be huge.
that's going to be that's the biggest stage we've ever played as a band. Um, we have played that stage before. It was not our music. We are doing some covers,
Oh,
and
I remember that night. Y'all did Kill the Witch. That
thank you.
was sick.
I'm pretty honored to be playing my own music there. Uh, it's gonna be pretty cool. We get some new tunes, potentially three of them, or at least one that y'all haven't heard. So
Yeah, Connor, thanks for coming.
thank you for doing this as always,
Yeah.
buddy. It's been too long. Let's do it again soon.
Yep. See you, Alice.